Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Kaitou Sentai LupinRanger versus Keisatsu Sentai PatoRanger. A few days late because we had some scheduling issues and personal issues that cropped up, but we've made it here today, and I am Vashi V, and I am joined with.
And today we are talking about episode 39. So, Noelle's kind of snooping around on Jim's computer and learns about Domingo for the first time. Keiichiro spots Kairi returning with groceries and, of course, starts making small talk, annoying Kairi. Then they hear an explosion nearby and Keiichiro runs to the scene. Noelle arrives at Jiraiya to ask the others about Domingo. Toma claims that they never heard of him, and Umika looks conflicted. And then we get the opening. Thoughts?
I like the fact that they're continuing this, big brotherly thing with Keiichiro and Kairi. Mainly because we have, the fact that Kairi doesn't really like the way his brother behaved in terms of being brotherly and whatnot. So it's and the fact that Keiichiro is so hard up to fill that role for him to help him and figure out what's wrong. Um, Noel snooping about Zamigo was interesting and well, leads to things that happen later. Um, it was a decent start to the episode, especially once it's like, well, when the explosion's happening, Kyrie and Keitra both end up going to the same place anyways, because Kyrie was trying to get away from him.
Yeah, that is good development for Keiichiro, since through most of the show he's just been a hothead. Now we're seeing a different side of him. That's consistent. So when we come back, we get the episode title number 39. Bet it all on this. The global police rendezvous. Some civilians are fleeing from exploding ebi fried shrimp. And Isolab appears. After being frozen, he was merely transported. Didn't die. So the police case has to change and attack. He uses his collection piece to make the PatoRangers float and blasts them with missiles just so he can retreat. Coyote spots a human, who is probably Isolab, and follows. Jim tells the police that there have been multiple reports of exploding fried shrimp, so they prioritize finding them for now. I guess he can kind of use them as traps instead of just missiles as well. Thoughts?
Like, I was kind of shocked at seeing him again because, as we were led to believe, that equaled death. Or at least that was, I guess, the way we interpreted it. And, collecting the collection piece was going to be basically, to parallel it to another show, would be like collecting the Dragon Balls and summoning and getting them brought back to life. Because all of this wasn't something that was explained how they were going to do it, how the collection piece was going to work, and all that. So, seeing somebody who literally just got turned to ice just in the last episode, it was a little bit shocking and taken aback. Um, his collection powers, it is a decent collection power, but I was a little weirded out by it, only because of something that happens later. Mainly, well, yes, they were floating, but why can't they shoot him? Because aiming is still a thing. Because that happens later. Not the shooting part, but the aiming part happens later.
So, at a park, Umika contemplates telling Noelle about Tamiko. Sakuya finds her while looking for one of the traps. She confides in him about her current situation, but of course, not mentioning names. Sakuya asks her if solving the problem or maintaining her friendship is more important. Umika comes up with the answer pretty quick, thanks him, and runs off. That was kind of nice. Sakuya not being, well, I mean, he kind of was at the end, but he was actually a mature adult for a second.
Right, for one second, he put the fact that he wanted to date Umika aside. You were there for a second. And for one of the first times in this series, he's actually given really good sound advice. Which is basically, which one of these is more important to you? And
Yep.
that was a nice touch. I was glad that they gave that to Sakuya instead of like who you'd expect that to be would be Tsukasa, because she's a more level-headed, analytical one. She'd be the one who'd normally give that type of advice. So it was nice that it was Sakuya.
Yep. So Kairi texts Toma about his scouting, stalking Isalab. Umika explains to Toma how she feels and why, and Toma agrees that they should ask Noel for help. So Lupin Red attacks Isalab at his lair. At Gerard, the other thieves tell Noel about Zamiko. Isalab makes Red float with his collection piece, but Red just uses his grappling buckle to counterattack and steal the collection piece. Zamiko arrives, pleased that he can fight Red again. Transforms and attacks. Jim alerts the police. Red kind of struggles to fend off Isalab and Zamiko until the other LupinRangers arrive. Blue protects them with the scissors shield that Red passes to him, but now he's defenseless. So he uses Victory Striker to summon some pretty awesome armor and turn into Super Lupin. But it's not just pretty armor. He's now able to predict Zamiko's every move and dodges or shoots his freeze bullet. Zamiko is nearly defeated, but he freezes Isalab and transports him in the way of Super Lupin Red's finisher. He retreats, looking forward to their rematch. Wow, that was unexpected. Thoughts?
Everything about this was amazing. From Kyrie basically going single-handedly and basically trying to handle this on his own, with the assumption that this would lead him to Zamiko. And the fact that it worked. And this is the scene where I said that the aiming was still a thing, because the fact that he could still use his grappling hook meant he had to aim his grappling hook at something. So why couldn't the others aim their guns at him? But that's just kind of a nitpick. Zamiko showing up was kind of awesome. I didn't really watch the preview, so that was kind of unexpected for me. Mainly because, again, we saw him once. I was expecting it to be another 5 or 6 episodes before he saw him. Red, Super Lupin Red looks amazing. I'm still glad that he wasn't the first one to get the power up. Granted, yes, he received it at the same time. He wasn't the first one to use his. That was a nice touch, and the fact that it's, for lack of a better term, makes him somewhat, omniscient, was a nice touch. It's not something we usually see in power-ups. Even if it is slightly implied, we never actually see it, because we literally see somebody getting their ass kicked, use their superpower, and all of a sudden they're better than the other guy. So at least this one kind of gave us an explanation of why, which is quite literally, that's what the power-up does. And it looks so damn good.
Yeah, the effect they used was pretty good too. Um, I can't wait to see how Zamigo counters that. Either he's gonna have to get a collection piece finally, or he's just gonna use some awesome tactics or something. Or he can just be a scumbag and say, and use the loved ones of the thieves as hostages. So we'll see. It could go in several directions. But
Well, real quick,
oh, go ahead.
one of the things they kind of pointed out is it's not a perfect, um, power, because he literally just teleports, and that kind of breaks up the what he's doing. So there is some aspects that Red can't read, and I feel that there's something to do with his teleporting, anyways. Because I pointed out to Rai that when he teleports in this episode, because he ends up pulling the monster of the week, because I can't remember his name, in the way and teleports behind some boxes.
Hmm.
They did a close up of the box from the other side, and it was all kind of fucked up. I don't know if it's relevant, but they lingered on it, like in a way of like, hey, this is important. So it may have something to do with the way his teleporting works, which would then explain why the Victory Striker power doesn't see that.
Yeah, Super Red isn't too OP, but I think if he had the help of the other Rangers, yeah, Zamigo would pretty much be screwed. So Zamigo's gonna need something. But Gosh revives Isalab. The Lupin Rangers deploy Victory Kaiser. Isalab uses. This is actually a pretty fun mech fight. Isalab uses hot oil to burn them. That doesn't work. So he begins flying, which is a pun on, frying. Yeah, funny. And Victory Kaiser straight up changes into flying mode because its head is a jumbo jet. And it's pretty awesome. And he's defeated. So, Keiichiro recalls how furious Red was during the fight and wonders if it was for personal reasons. Noel tells the thieves that he will continue to investigate Zamigo. The thieves are confident that they can defeat him now. But Kairi wonders who killed Noel's loved one if it wasn't Zamigo. And then we cut to the mansion. Destra is drinking heavily in shame of his recent failure. Gosh offers to help him redeem himself, but he declines for now. Episode end. Pretty good cliffhanger. Thoughts?
Like everything about this was pretty good. I was taken aback by Victor Striker's flying mode, because it's literally, it just turns into basically a giant good striker with like the ships attached to it. Like, I think this is the first time that we've actually had that happen for a flying ability. Because usually it's just some like sort of jetpack or wings or whatnot. It like doesn't transform to fly. And this literally transformed to fly, and it was a little weird. It looked awesome, but I was really taken aback by that. Um, the fact that we're 39 episodes into this series and we're still basically asking the same damn questions at the start of it, and we don't have a problem with that, is amazing. This series has done really well in terms of like advancing the story without there much being headway into the actual plot and meat of the show. This show has been more about the character interactions rather than the reaching the overall goal, in my opinion. And the fact that Noel doesn't know who Zamigo is raises a ton of questions. And like I was talking with Rai, since Zamigo's not the one who, captured his loved one or killed him or whatever the case may be there, who did he lose? And which drags me back to my theory when they got the Lupin Magnum that he's somehow related to Lupin. And that's who he lost. Mainly because that whole longing gaze that he had on it, on the hologram of him. And then the fact that the way they cut to Destra after Kyrie basically asks himself, well, who's responsible for this, makes me think that Destra has something to do with it. And I'm really curious about that.
Especially since he fought Destra and wasn't really that emotional, so that'll be interesting.
Right, because I have another lightweight theory, which is highly unlikely, but it also would explain the heavy drinking. I think Destra was whoever he lost. He was just a gangler posing, a gangler posing as a human, or a human turned into a gangler, because we still don't have the explanation on where the gangler came from or what they are. And it could be him remembering something important involving all of this, or like you said, it could just be something as simple as I'm a failure. So it's an interesting setup that they have, because it could, like I said, it's something that could go different ways.
Any more thoughts?
Honestly, I'm still amazed that we're 39 episodes into it, and like I said, it's it doesn't feel like we've been watching this for 39 episodes.
Yeah.
Because like I said, aside from Zords and basically other than the collection pieces that they have to use, it seems like, okay, nothing has made headway into them achieving their goal. I mean, this was the closest they got when they figured out where Zamiko was. It's because we don't know how much of the collection pieces are left to collect, or we have no information. And the fact that there's still some tension between the Lupin Rangers and Kogure and Noel and Kogure, and the whole situation it's still very, very unclear. And we're usually at the point where we're getting to the wrap up. Because there's only at most 11 episodes left of the series. It's one of those, I think this is going to end up making a ton of headway really, really quick.
Yeah, and even if it feels a bit rushed, the rest of the show has just been so solid, I wouldn't even care. It'd just be a fun ride.
Right, this is one of those series where it's getting to the point where I hate to do it, but kind of drive off topic. It is relevant. It to me, it's going to be one of those, either this is going to wrap up in a really quick way with a lot of very, very quick answers, or it's going to go the Kamen Rider Fi's route where it doesn't necessarily end. It's things are, because the end of Fi's is yes, they've solved the problem, the immediate problem, but that was about it. It didn't put an end to anything. All this stuff could start happening again at the drop of a hat. And it seems like that could be the route that this takes. Only because they're going to now have to cram in theory, a bunch of crap in a short period of time. And either way they do that, I will be fine with it. Unless it just becomes a very, very asinine thing. But somehow, with as good as this series has been, I highly doubt I will be disappointed with any answer they give us.
Yep, same. So, final thoughts for this episode. It was awesome. Yeah, Super Lupin Red is freaking beautiful. And the mech fight was actually pretty enjoyable. And, um, honestly, I don't even remember what the trailer for the next episode is, but we'll see what happens.
Um, this episode was fantastic, like I've said for pretty much every episode this series. On behalf of King, since she is not here, I want to point out that Zimigo was creepy as fuck in his human form this episode, even though it was only like a couple of seconds. Like that weird fucking grin laugh he does is like disturbing.
He turned it up a notch.
Yeah, he did. He's reaching Dan Kuroto levels of creepiness. Um, but yeah, this series has been amazing. This episode was fantastic. Um, Super Lupin Red is it's one of the few power ups I've seen in a while that, while on one hand kind of looks a little gaudy, it works and it fits, and it's one of those. It just looks amazing even because of the gaudiness of it. And the fact that literally all it does is give him a chest piece, really, and it gives him a chest piece, and he alters his cloak to having basically being in 3 pieces instead of 1. That doesn't sound like much, but oh my god, is it amazing! Um, I guess that's it for this episode. Um, thank you all for listening. We will be back next Tuesday for on a regularly scheduled time for for Super Sentai, and also again on Thursday. God damn, I cannot talk right now. We'll be back Tuesday for Super Sentai and Wednesday for Kamen Rider. Um, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Laters.